Welcome to today's lesson on rounding decimals. If you already know how to round whole numbers, you're in luck because rounding decimals is very similar. I'm going to teach you the 3 steps that you need to know to be able to round decimals today. Let's start talking about decimals. We're going to start by using the example of 3 and 412 thousandths. Now remember, every number to the right of a decimal is less than one whole or part of a whole. So when we're rounding decimals, we're rounding to the nearest place value that's a decimal. So if we are rounding to the tenths place, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. If we're rounding to the hundredths place, we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, and so forth. All right, let's get started with our 3 steps. Step 1, you need to underline the place value that you're going to be rounding to. So let's go ahead and round to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to underline the hundredth place. That's step 1. Step 2, you need to look at the number that's directly to the right of the place value that you underlined. Step 3, if this number is less than 5, then you're going to keep your underlined digit the same and cross out the rest of the place values. If this digit is 5 or greater, then you're going to round this 1 up to a 2 and then cross out the remaining place values. And there you go. That's all there is to it. The 3 steps for rounding decimals. Now that you've learned the 3 steps, let's walk through a couple practice problems together. We're going to round 3 and 999 thousandths to the nearest hundredths place. Now listen carefully because this one's a little tricky. Step 1, underline the place value that you're rounding. Step 2, look at the number directly to the right of your underlined place value. Step 3, if this number is greater than 5, then we're going to round up. Since 9 is greater than 5, we are going to round the 9 to a 10. But that means we move into the next place value. It's similar to adding and carrying a number. So we need to cross out our 9, and we have a 0, and we're going to add our 1 into the tenths place. Uh-oh, now we need to carry over again because 9 plus 1 equals 10. So we're going to cross out this place value, add a 0, and carry that 1 over again. So now our 3 turns into a 4. So 3 and 999 thousandths rounded to the nearest hundredths place would actually be 4. Or we could say 4 and 0 hundredths. That one was a little tricky. Let's go through another one together. We're going to round this number to the nearest tenths place. Step 1, underline the tenths place. Step 2, look at the number directly to the right of the tenths place. Step 3, since 3 is less than 5, we cross out our remaining place values and keep our underlined number the same. So 2 and 432 thousandths rounded to the nearest tenths place gives us 2 and 4 tenths. One thing that I want you to notice is that when we rounded to the hundredths place, I made sure that I said 4 and 0 hundredths. When we rounded to the tenths place, I made sure that I said 2 and 4 tenths. When you're rounding a number, whatever place value you're rounding to, you should always end on. If you're not ending on that place value, then that probably means you did something wrong. All right, let's go through our last one together. We are going to round to the tenths place. Step 1, underline the tenths place. Step 2, look at the number directly to the right of the tenths place. Step 3, since this number is 5 or greater, that means that we need to round this 5 up into a 6. So we're going to round up to a 6 and cross out our remaining place value. So 5 and 55 hundredths rounded to the tenths place equals 5 and 6 tenths. So that's all there is to it. Let's review what you've learned in today's lesson. There are 3 simple steps for rounding decimals. Let's use the example of 5 and 146 thousandths. Step 1, underline the place value that you're rounding to. So let's round to the tenths place. Step 2, look at the number directly to the right of the place value you're rounding to. And step 3, if this number is less than 5, then the 1 stays the same and we cross out our remaining place values. If this number is 5 or greater, then we're going to round this digit up by 1. So 5 and 146 thousandths rounded to the tenths place equals 5 and 2 tenths.